Hey chess friends, I hope you are doing well. Today, I have a very cunning King's Gambit opening that I initiated in my game against Komodo Dragon in the Computer Chess Championship. This game is crucial, and I will share the chess traps that I initiated in the King's Gambit, so, stay tuned until the end of the video. As you know, Komodo Dragon is a super chess engine and computer, so, let's get started without wasting any time. I started the game with e4, and Kumamoto played e5. Instead of making normal moves, I decided to shock him by playing my masterful move, f4, initiating the King's Gambit, and my bishop went out to the c4 square. Last day, I illustrated the knight f3 variation, but today I want to illustrate the bishop c4 variation for you. After Kumamoto played queen to h4 check, the king went to the f1 square. Here, many players might consider bishop to c5, as it looks like the logical move to checkmate me on the third move of the game. However, you can counter black by playing d4, kicking out the bishop, and after knight to f3, attacking the queen. The pawn on f4 is also under attack. If you dare to consider queen to g4 to protect the pawn, I can make a significant move to damage your position completely. Can you find that move? Yes, you're right, bishop takes f7, sacrificing the bishop like a champ. In the King's Gambit, most of the time, bishop takes f7 is a sacrifice you have to prepare for because the bishop cannot be captured due to knight to e5, which forks your queen and king. No matter where the king goes, it will be over for you. After h3, you can see that your queen's position is trapped. The queen literally has no square to go. The queen is a combination of the rook and bishop, but it will be trapped there. The only square left is queen to g3. But that doesn't matter because after knight to c3, knight to e2 will come and trap the queen, and that's exactly what happened in the game. Knight to e2 comes, and black just loses the game, so that was the first trap. If you enjoyed it, please like the video. Going back to the position, we discovered that playing bishop to c5 looks like a natural move, but it is a completely logical fallacy. Therefore, black initiates a heavy attack with b5. What an incredible move. Actually, it is a book move that Kumamoto played in the game. Black wants to develop the bishop as soon as possible by sacrificing the pawn, and when the knight goes to the f6 square, it puts pressure on the pawn. Here again, many players might consider e5 as it seems like a reasonable move to attack the knight, but it doesn't matter because, in every position and variation, you need to prioritize your king's safety. Otherwise, in this position, knight to g4 and queen to f2 can checkmate you. Therefore, after queen to e1 happened in the game, black captured the pawn on the h3 square, checking the king, and when the king moves, queen to g4 check arrives. You can see that the king has only 2 squares to go, but king to f2 is a very bad choice because of bishop to c5, which makes the position very vulnerable. After king to d3, queen takes g2 arrives, attacking the rook, and black will just win the game. I will lose in the opening. And chess friends, let me provide you an astonishing quote in sudden with you. Stop worrying about what tomorrow may bring, focus on what you can control, stay positive, enjoy today, expect good things to come. So, going back to the position, I didn't consider e5, I just played knight to f3 casually. When the queen retreats, we have d3 to attack the pawn, and also my pawn is protecting the e4 pawn. Alright, we have knight to h5 with the idea of playing knight to g3, checking the king and forking the rook. That's his plan. Therefore, I played knight to h4, activating my queen diagonally, and knight to f5 can arrive to attack the queen. The queen went to g5, followed by knight to h5, which happened in the game. Here, black should have considered playing g6 and knight to c6, but these moves were not considered. He just played c6, attacking the bishop. Here, I played a very cunning move. Can you guess that move? I, like the Nimzovich defense player, played g4, a historical move to attack the knight and also put pressure on the f4 pawn. The knight cannot go there, so it has to retreat to the f6 square, and the queen becomes very lonely and vulnerable in these 4 squares. Therefore, my rook went to g1. The point is very clear. He is attacking the pawn on g4, that's why I played rook to g1 to protect the pawn, and I can also play h4 h5 to trap the queen on that side of the board. At the same time, I sacrificed my bishop on the b5 square, Komodo just accepted, and we have h4 followed by queen to g6. In this position, playing bishop takes f4 is not possible because of h5. Alright, so far so good. I considered h5 first. When the queen goes there, we have queen to f3. Now, I am attacking the pawn on f4, where the queen will be trapped. That's why black has to retreat his knight, because he has no other choice but to give up the queen. We have bishop takes f4, the queen frees up, and we have knight to c3. At this point, you can see that my pieces are just too far ahead in development, while all of black's pieces are undeveloped and frozen by the snow. Even g4 can come. We have bishop to c5 by Komodo to put pressure on the rook, then we have knight to d5 to put more pressure on the queen. Many chess players might notice that this game is almost like the historical chess battle played by two grandmasters, but look. I and Komodo are just playing with that opening to see what will happen. This opening was played in the chess championship, which is why I'm showing you this game. We have queen takes b2, attacking the rook. And playing rook to e1 would have been a good move to consider, but I, like the historical player, played bishop to d6. It's an inaccurate move, but it has a very spectacular idea. The idea is that if you dare to capture my bishop, I will just capture your d6 bishop, checking the king, and the king has very few squares to go. Otherwise, the king will not get a reserved seat on the train and will have to travel standing. Therefore, after king to d8, knight takes check, the king moves to the e8 square. Another knight check, and queen to f8 will lead to a checkmate. The game will be over. So, going back to the position, we discovered that capturing the bishop with the bishop is a very bad choice. That's why we have queen takes rook, and when the king moves to e1, you cannot capture the rook on the g1 square. Let me show you why. When your queen was located on the a1 square, it was protecting the g7 pawn, but this is no longer protected. Therefore, after knight takes g7 happens, the king has to run, and bishop to c7 will lead to checkmate. The game will be over again. So, going back to the position, we discovered that queen takes rook is a very bad choice. That's why after queen to b2, because the queen has to stay on this diagonal, we have king to d2 and bishop takes rook. At this juncture, as the queen is protecting the pawn, I decided to consider e5 to block the queen's diagonal. Therefore, knight to g7 was threatened by me, but Komodo just played bishop to b7 to develop his pieces. After knight takes g7, queen takes f7 happened in the game after the king moved. I am just threatening checkmate in one move. As you can see, in this position, many chess players might consider knight takes h6, as it looks like the best move to consider because the rook file gets opened, but it is not, because I can simply play knight takes e6, you have to capture the knight because you have no other choice. Then after queen to c7, followed by queen to e7, it will lead to checkmate. The game will be over again. So, going back to the position, as the knight cannot move to the h6 square without any protection or guarantee, Komodo decided to play bishop takes e3 check, giving back my material. My king cannot capture the bishop because of queen to c1 check. The queen will gain access to this diagonal. That's why I just captured the bishop with the knight, and knight takes e7 happened in the game to free up the rook file. Here, capturing the knight with the bishop or queen will not bring any advantages for me. I just postponed the exchange for one move, and after a check, I finally captured the knight. When the knight moves to a5, putting pressure on the rook, you cannot protect the rook by any means. For example, if you dare to consider rook to e8, I will then play bishop to d8 check. After that, queen to d6, followed by knight to e7 check, will lead to checkmate. The game will be over. So, going back to the position, the rook cannot be protected. Therefore, after bishop to f3, we capture the rook. After a few moves, you can see that I grabbed the pawn and also created two connected passed pawns. That's what I was progressing toward in my game. We have a queen check, the knight blocks, and the knight is captured. You can see that we are just developing some pieces, and h7 can arrive on the board. After a few more moves, the knight went to d4 and captured the pawn. We then have the knight back to the c2 square again, and you can see that we had some piece exchanges. At the end of the day, you can see that I am just dominating on the queen side. We have a bishop check here, and the knight on d8 becomes very paralyzed. You have no other choice but to resign the game. You cannot capture the knight because of queen takes d8, king to d8 is just losing the game because, after all, he is playing against the god of chess. At the end of the day, we have two minor pieces, and I have a big army to checkmate black, and I checkmated him. So, I hope you enjoyed the game very much. If so, then don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I wish you all the best. Bye bye, take care, see you soon.